Hello and welcome to the last BYOB expert session for the day. I'm Nick Farrar. I'm the founder and CEO of ShapeBuy, and this session is one we've called Why Weirdness Works in B2B. So a little bit of context here. The AI space in B2B marketing is very competitive, but a lot of the time it's pretty uninspiring with very little differentiation. Some companies are breaking the mold, and with this in mind, I'm really pleased to have Ryan Anderson here, who's the head of product marketing at Zapier. Ryan and his team at Zapier took a bold, irreverent approach to AI promotion and carved out a pretty unique space for the brand with their AI in a Can campaign. Zapier fully embraced humour and quirkiness to engage audiences and make AI feel approachable and interactive. So over the next 25 minutes, I'm hoping we'll look into how Ryan and his team leveraged some unconventional tactics to make their mark in the crowded AI market, how the process was managed internally, and how this campaign has influenced their brand perception. So Ryan, hello and a very warm welcome to BYOB. Thanks for giving up your time.
Thanks so much, Nick. Great to be here. Looking forward to talking about our AI in a Can campaign.
Yeah, cool. Are you well?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm coming to you from San Francisco, and we were just talking about it. We're in the middle of a little bit of a heat wave, so it's really nice here, and a good day to be talking about all this.
I'm not jealous at all. So why don't we kind of kick in straight away? Firstly, I mentioned your AI in a Can campaign. So for any listeners to the talk who aren't aware of the campaign, why don't you briefly explain what it's all about?
Yeah, of course. So obviously, everyone is kind of slapping AI into all of their marketing in the B2B SaaS space right now. And I think where this campaign, started is two places. I think internally at Zapier, we really tried to avoid actually like a lot of the typical hype, which is if you see us demo stuff, we are very focused on things that customers have actually done and demoing their real solutions. The other part of it is we like to have a little bit of fun too. And AI is, yes, a very serious thing, but I think also we didn't feel the need to take it all too seriously all at the same time. So when we were thinking about, what kind of campaign could we do to play in this space, let people know Zapier's here and has something to say, and then actually introduce some of our new AI beta products, we thought it would be really fun to do essentially an experiential campaign, something Zapier has never done before. And so we had a kind of virtual experience online, which you can still go out and check out with videos and kind of like some things. But what we also did from the experiential point is we thought the silly way of handling this is, well, AI is so easy to use. It's as easy to use as drinking it out of a can. And so we came up with this idea with our great creative agency, Strange Family, around the idea of, well, what if your computer had an energy drink? And that's where the can came in. So AI in a can, give it to your computer, and all of a sudden you're automating all of your work. So that's kind of where the campaign came from. And these cans were giveaways to customers and folks that showed up and engaged with the campaign.
That's awesome. You mentioned before, just saying that it's nothing that Zapier had really done before. Is it something that you'd experimented in your previous roles? I think at Salesforce previously and stuff, or where did the inspiration come from?
The inspiration really came from the brand team and just trying to think through, how do we say something about this topic? How do we do something kind of silly? How do we stand out is kind of where it came from. My experience with this stuff previously, I used to work at Atlassian, and Atlassian did a lot of weirdness in their marketing. They have a developer audience. It is really fun to market to that audience. And it was more in vogue back in the day, but April Fool's jokes were like a big thing for B2B marketers. And so Atlassian really took the April Fool's stuff and turned it up to 11. So we did all sorts of like brand and experiential campaigns around April Fools and kind of making jokes and made up products. So this was like a really good overlap for stuff that I had experience with and stuff the team wanted to do.
And that, it being something new to Zapier, I'm just kind of always intrigued to understand the cultures and clients and stuff, particularly when you're talking about big campaigns like this that maybe are new to campaigns. I know that it can be a real battle to sell these big ideas. So just that kind of that culture in Zapier, is it one that really encourages experimentation?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think like there's probably two things to know with Zapier. We're a founder-led business, and so that's a culture that is very much endorsed by the founder in kind of all walks of the company. Whether we're building product or the marketing team is shipping stuff. The second is experimentation is also encouraged. We have a set of company values. The first one is default to action. So there's kind of this sense within the company, if you have a really good idea, let's give that person or that team go energy and see where they take it. So that's just something that's kind of culturally encouraged. And I think those two things really do lead to experimentation, and I think do give us an appetite for risk. Now, the only thing I'll say to that too is like, then it's not also obvious that you would go and make AI in a can either. Like, I don't think that's like the next logical step when you think about these things. So I think from our founder, even it was, yeah, let's be weird. I understand the value of wanting to stand out. But we did riff with him a lot on this project, which is very cool to have the founder involved in the brand, one. And two, there's some give and take there of some trust with the team. And I think it's finding the right things that we can agree on to try. And, one thing that was really important for this leader, our founder in particular, was the cans. He was like very sold on, like what could be cooler than creating a fake real product and sending them out to all of our customers as a way to engage with the brand. So that's some of the give and take of like being cool and accepting of some weirdness and finding the right things that really say, yeah, let's keep the go energy high for a campaign like this.
I think there's a lot of people who'd be very jealous of you to have that kind of that attitude within the senior management team, the founders there. I think a lot of the times as companies progress and they get bigger and more established, that gap between the original hunger and innovation and kind of enthusiasm for the brand and the company just gets diluted a little bit as it grows stronger. Was that something you were aware of when you started at Zapier, or was it a pleasant surprise for you?
Both. I think both. It was there, and it is a little bit of a pleasant surprise, and it's also like a muscle that we're all working on together. So it's one of those things also that we're growing and developing together as well. I think our founder Wade has really good instincts, both for what the market wants, what our customers want to see. So that's really positive. I think admires brands like MailChimp that are super weird, and do take really big shots and bold shots, which is a great model. And then Zapier also is really like a product that is user first. And so I think in that it's a builder product. And that allows us to be more playful. I don't think not every brand can explore the outer reaches of weirdness, but for us, we also have a target customer that I like to say they're the person out at a cafe when there's 4 legs to the table and the third leg's like a little short and the table's wobbly. It's that person that actually like folds up the napkin and balances the table. And so it's just kind of this very like intrinsically motivated person to reject things that are broken or the status quo. And I think weirdness really plays to that kind of person really well too.
It's a really nice point you make actually, but you kind of mentioned it a little bit previously and stuff, and in the green room as well, that obviously with this will and this want to experiment and kind of really push the boat with things comes that risk of failure, which is and that they sometimes don't always go hand in hand, do they? Somebody can say, yeah, I'll go along with that, but then when something goes slightly wrong, then okay, yeah, well, your idea, you have to face the consequences. Was there resistance at all in the campaign? What was it, and how was that overcome?
I think it was aligning on expectations. It's a really good question, because I think the biggest thing, especially working with the team, setting expectations there, setting expectations of leadership. What we like to do internally at Zapier is basically say, what is the winning condition here? What does success look like? And what are maybe the layers of success? So for us, there was one part of it of, yeah, this is, your budget, your time, your effort, and it's our brand, right? And so we need to figure out how to satisfy all those things, but it encourages the team to kind of go on this. I think the second part is minimum viable success for us actually look like, can we get rid of all the cans? Is that a real thing? And from that was more about like affinity to us. We actually created something that people wanted. And we totally we underestimated there. We thought these things would last for a while. And in 2 days, we shipped 1,000 of them. And we were like, well, I guess we should have made 5,000. So we hit the minimum viable success. And then as the outer reaches of that, we kind of went viral in one channel that we were really happy to. And that was like the other key goal of, can we actually like get real engagement here online for this thing? So once we hit that, everything else was gravy, because this was a test of ours. And the only negative sentiment we were worried about was we got this old dodgy computer as part of our videos, and we poured a can of Zap on it. And we were like, oh, will people be mad at us for like ruining a old broken computer? And fortunately, there's no negative commentary on there. So that was the thing we were the most worried about, honestly.
I was going to kind of later on going to come to the different tactics used in the campaign, but I might as well cover it now because we brought it up. So, first of all, you obviously had a lot of fun with the campaign, a lot of fun with the creative, lovely tone of voice. The messaging is kind of consistent and lovely, and it's got longevity, which I can see. The other thing is that I've noticed that there is a lot of stuff online. It did kind of go viral. There's a lot of videos on YouTube with people kind of loving the swag that you've got and stuff. What were the most successful tactics from the campaign, would you say?
Yeah. So we kind of designed the videos that we did. They're on the landing page, but the distribution was in particular Twitter and TikTok. I think we wanted to see if we could really leverage those channels to get engagement from, yes, our customers, but also folks within those channels. And I think, one of the two things that we know, and particularly about TikTok, is obviously you're competing with dogs and cats, cute dogs and cats. You're competing with comedy, you're competing with all sorts of stuff there. And so I think that combined with, I think people are a little bit, desire stuff from brands less. They want to get it from people and experts. And so we knew we had to combat there. And so for us, it was about impressions in TikTok and click-throughs there. And I think we kind of wired the videos for, let's show up well in that channel. And the same went for Twitter as well. So that's what it kind of looked like for us. And then the third is, there's a lot of AI influencers now. And so working with them as well. And can we get the influencers excited? Yes, can we kind of like pay them to promote and participate, but also can we get them to engage? And that was really successful, reaching out there as well.
Cool. And it is, we talked in the intro to BYOB about, this kind of little shifts in B2B marketing, going from kind of like, results at all costs through to more of a brand play. And that it's a big step then to go to saying that actually a fundamental part of this campaign is to get those likes and shares on channels which aren't traditionally B2B. And maybe this kind of goes back to that idea about understanding the setup of teams within Zapier to make this work. So you said at the start that it was the brand team that came up with this idea of wanting to do something kind of irreverent. You guys get involved, the external agency gets involved and stuff. Where did the strategy and the thought process to make this campaign what it is come from?
Yeah, that started with our brand marketing team ultimately at the beginning of the year. And it was in partnership with our CMO and then someone on the brand marketing team, Maeve, who basically like the two of them collaborated and said, let's try experiential this year. Let's figure out what that is for us. Um, and actually, the team started in a completely different direction at the beginning of the year on what that might look like and then really shifted of we will actually want to say something about AI. So they actually changed from there. But the reason experiential felt important to us is one, we have a brand that can explore that in really fun, innovative ways. Two, our old CMO, Kieran, has this great saying, and I think it's a good spiritual saying for marketers is like, let's figure out something that's going to break the internet. That's the aspiration that he kind of chartered the team to. And so I think that's just great. That's coming from a leader, right? That is, let's do something really big here. We know who we're competing with for attention. And so that's the incentive that the team had. But then Maeve on the team actually went out and really built this whole thing out with the creative agency. So a lot of kudos to her.
Cool, and it's lovely to have a CMO with that ambition. I love that. Something that's going to break the internet. Let's not worry about the results or worry about the bottom line or whatever it's going to do. Let's do something that's going to make a massive impact.
It's indicative too. I mean, I think the way obviously you can get to the idea and the concept. I think if I've learned anything from him, it's actually start with distribution. Think about the channels that you want to show up in, and then go create an idea and a concept based on those channels. And I see this all the time, and I've fallen victim to it too, where you have a great idea, a great concept, but maybe it's not wired in the right way for distribution, or you think about distribution second. And so I think marketers, especially brand marketers, thinking about distribution first and then coming around to maximize for that is something that Kieran really imparted on the team. And so that's why we were so focused on TikTok and Twitter as distribution mechanisms.
Yeah, the two have to go hand in hand, don't they? You can't have that distribution and then an idea working in separate little silos, because they just don't work. They just don't work. They kind of have this kind of adage that there's kind of the distribution is going to take the horse to water, but it's going to be the creative that makes it drink. And I think that you have to start that whole process early doors in the
Yeah, it's little stuff like that too. I mean, I mentioned that I think folks are becoming more skeptical of brands or less interested in like the content brands have to create. And I think, we see that even AI demos is a great example. Our Zapier social accounts, our branded account puts out demo videos all the time and they get some engagement. You have a Zapier employee putting those demos out and they get way more engagement. And so there's something there of like, thinking through the distribution, right? And it's like, maybe the branded account isn't the right one. Do we have folks who are excited, willing to put new stuff out with their personal socials? Seems to be an interesting piece to all that too.
No, for sure. I think that there's, we know that people buy from brands that they are affiliated to and they have a connection with and they feel aligned with. And I think that it's always a challenge for companies to strike that balance and say, actually, how can we make a mark, and how can we make progress, and how can we build our brand within the relevant people? But it's that connection and making those those connections in your head, say that actually, well, maybe TikTok and Twitter are the right places, these things to build these brands, because actually the people that we're selling to are they're humans and they enjoy
their people,
engaged and stuff, and it kind of brings me that big question about, so obviously it's a fun campaign, but it's got a serious business, which is to raise the brand perception of Zapier. How has it impacted perceptions of Zapier within your different target markets? I know you have kind of a few verticals and you work with different size organizations.
Yeah. I think a couple things we're measuring that right now. One of the interesting parts of the automation space is a couple of things. I think generally people kind of want their automation solution to be everything. So it is extra hard to stand out. There's just this like level of I kind of want it all from my automation platform kind of thing. And then two, like folks don't totally stand out super well all on their own. So figuring out what it is that we're going to do. And I think AI is one of those things. It's important for everybody, but I think for us, making it approachable and making it very actionable is the thing that we're really trying to focus on. So that's kind of where this campaign fits in. Is we actually have new stuff for folks to try. We have new products that we've built, and they're ready in here. And then who, you were kind of saying like who from a segment perspective, which probably gets into a little bit of like who this was for. I mean, this is really for the builders. This is for our folks that are the users of the product, and doing something for them. Like I said, this is like we're a user first platform in so many ways. And so what we want to do is encourage more building on the platform. And so that's what this was really about, was engaging those folks, down market, up market, getting them to build with AI was a key part of this.
Cool. And is it a campaign which is still ongoing? Has it got legs? Are you rolling out AI in the CAN version 2?
We're doing a little bit of, so the thing that we're discussing internally is, should we have another CAN release, is kind of the way to bring it back around. Because like I said, I think we sold out in about 2 days, 2 or 3 days. And we just underestimated it. So we brought the cans back we had our customer conference last week. And so we had the cans involved in our keynote and as a little advertisement there. So there's a waiting list. And so folks are signing up. So we're considering kind of doing another re-engagement campaign in this quarter. So we'll see what comes of that, but we're brainstorming as we speak to kind of reinvigorate the campaign.
I guess the beautiful thing about it, Ryan, is that you can't go backwards now. You set yourself a bar, and you have to go on from there. And that's going to.
We have some fun ideas, and like I said, I think that's, you asked me if it was a surprise. What's possible with the brand here? I think that's one of my favorite parts about working at Zapier is our customers and some of the rope we get, but some of the opportunity we get to do some different stuff for some wow things. And so we're thinking of what's next too.
Cool. And just kind of when coming back to that whole campaign structure, looking at TikTok, looking at Twitter and stuff, were there other platforms that you looked at and kind of walked away from this? I'm thinking kind of maybe some of the more traditional B2B channels. LinkedIn, was that kind of a...
We did do a little bit of LinkedIn, and we leaned into TikTok and Twitter because from our estimation, especially, and it's changing a little bit actually, because I think AI is like, if you could imagine it going more mainstream professionally, it's going more mainstream. But we chose those 2 channels because those are where the conversations around AI were happening. That was really where people were showing stuff. And I actually think there was like a little bit of a lag with LinkedIn where it was kind of like people were talking about it, but on the like high level, very not specifically. So you're starting to see that crossover, but all the demos, all the conversations around AI and whatever the products were, was happening on Twitter and TikTok. So that's why we hammered those. And then we did some tests on LinkedIn, and they, I don't want to discourage anyone from trying it out on LinkedIn or anything. They were just a little bit less performing there. I also think that tide is turning a little bit. We see folks really learning about what's next with work or tooling on LinkedIn as well. So I think you just have to keep going on that channel as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's the go-to, isn't it? And it takes a little bit of bravery, I think, to kind of step outside of that safety zone. It takes a bit of kind of convincing internally, whether that's from agencies you're working with or media buyers or just your internal teams, to go, actually, let's give this a go and see what happens.
Totally. One of the things we do internally too is like we thought about, this is very outlandish, right? And it fits on Twitter and TikTok. And then you kind of bring it over to LinkedIn and you might say, is this a little too absurd? I think that's like a totally fair question to say, is this campaign right? Do we want to spend our dollars there? Do we want to put it out there? And that's thinking distribution first. And is this the right content for that channel? Just because it doesn't have to be everywhere if you don't want it to be. And I think, we dialed it down there ultimately.
I think also it's sometimes the case of having to repurpose some of that core messaging to make it fit within channels, which
Yep.
I guess sometimes with something as strong as the AI and the CAN just dilutes that whole message, which you certainly don't want to do. Diluting drinks, that doesn't work. But anyway, in agreement that you just had your Zap Connect.
Yes.
Were there elements of this this campaign at that?
Yeah, so it's an all virtual conference, so we kind of promoted it, almost as a bit. And customers, I think, were familiar with it, but there's different things being promoted inside the event, almost like advertisements. So we were promoting it there just for some fun and color. But I think the great thing about having something real life here is when we're recording the keynote, we had kind of all of our keynote speakers for that presentation crack a Zap and do a little tagline as well. And so we use some of that in the keynote presentation. Some of that we're saving for social. And so just having some of that real world element to this, you kind of think about, you pile on the idea with the next thing. And so some of that will probably go into the kind of reinvigoration of this campaign as well.
Cool. And I'm also, we're coming to the end. We haven't got too much time. I'm also wondering if the drinks are as good as they look.
They are totally unoffensive. I wouldn't call them good, but they're totally unoffensive. And everyone got to take a sip, and it's mostly just soda water with a little bit of flavoring and ginseng.
One of them got a much better review than the other one. I think it was is there a cherry one? Is there maybe a kind of a?
Yes, up here is the cherry one, and then I have the wild kiwi workflow as well. I think they're all the same flavor, actually.
Oh, well, the guy I saw was a bit dismissive about one, but there you go. Yeah.
Oh, is that right? Okay, well then maybe he's dismissive about them all.
Maybe that's just the packaging that kind of works, doesn't it?
But yeah, I was talking with a customer the other day, and they had it in the background of their Zoom, which I thought was very, very fun. And it's cool to bring a little something to the real world when you're all software.
I also know, I always kind of ask clients this and stuff when I'm talking, but are you inspired by stuff that any other kind of your peers or other companies are doing that kind of jumps out?
I mean, all the time. I think the most important thing too, as as a marketer, is we do try to avoid even our own competitors, and so I think we look into other industries in software, other industries entirely, to kind of think of what's the crossover there. One of the crazy ideas we have is well, what if we redesigned our website like Airbnb, and just showed all the use cases we have to offer in the forms of homes, like you would find on Airbnb. So yeah, I think we look, cross industry a lot. And then even in the real world piece, I saw this great, out of home kind of billboard that Figma had done. And it was, their FigJam product is all stickies, virtual stickies. And so they had virtual stickies, at least 6 of them kind of hanging off a billboard in San Francisco or in New York somewhere. And it, gave this 3 dimension to a billboard that was totally amazing. That's such a good idea.
Figma do some great stuff. And I love that idea about just trying to look outside and differentiate yourself as a business. There's kind of a vanilla look to a lot of these kind of tech websites and stuff. If you can kick that trend, it's awesome. Oh gosh, we've only got a minute left. I've got a couple of questions that have come in that Alex has posted. One I think we covered previously, which is why do you think more B2B brands don't consider TikTok a viable channel to be on?
I mean, probably some of it comes from uncertainty of best practices and how to handle it. Probably some of it also comes from it's just a totally different content style as well. I think one company that also has a very fun brand that does really well on TikTok is ClickUp. Yeah. And they actually have a couple different, as far as I can tell, TikTok profiles as well that range in topic or absurdity. And so I think some of it is just knowing how to create content that is valuable, but that is kind of a great way to get mass discovery ultimately. And you really do have to stand out there and put engaging content. So the typical stuff just doesn't play there. So maybe they've tried and it hasn't worked. And so you say, that's not a good channel for us, when you just need a totally different type of content for it.
Yeah, and jump in and try and experiment. And Ryan, I'm really sorry, but we've run out of time, I'm afraid. I really enjoyed chatting to you. Thank you so much, and good luck for A in a Can version 2. I look forward to the new improved recipe, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, Nick. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.